Greetings and welcome to a special quarantine episode of Spotlight on Salem, coming to you via Zoom from our respective domiciles. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Ronan Baker as my guest on today's episode of Spotlight on Salem. Hello, Ronan.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, first off, I understand today is your birthday, so let me start off by wishing you a happy birthday.
1,000 thanks, good sir.
A very different type of birthday this year, I'm sure, but I hope that you're enjoying it nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I'm turning 32, so things get a little bit different, I feel like, when you get to your 30s. I don't know if you would agree with that. Definitely, when I turned 30, I became much more grumpy and curmudgeon-y. And over like parties and stuff like that. So it kind of like fits in quarantine style and just being like,
So it's working out good for you then.
Yeah. I'll just stay at home. We'll see what's going on. Yeah.
And speaking of that, how are you dealing with this, this whole, having to stay home during the stay-at-home order, and how's that basically affecting your daily life?
Well, obviously it's affecting the daily life for sure. For me, I'm one of those people, I don't know of like the different tests that you take, of your personality.
Oh, like a Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, like that style. But I am a very introverted extrovert. So I need my time to come together and think and, process things. And in my work and my lifestyle, in that I'm an entertainer and music producer and show producer, I get that a lot of the time. So I spend 12 hours a day usually alone, and then I get to my gig, and then I interact with people, and that's what I feed off of, in those couple of hours that you're out there and then you're interacting with people. So I've lost that part of it, so that's a little hard. And here, hold on one second. This microphone is drooping on me.
There's nothing worse than a droopy microphone.
So that's been a little tough. Going into quarantine, I was in a pretty tough space. I was in like kind of a flux with, I own a business that's called All That Sound that produces music for live shows for like festivals, like we've done the St. Paul Rodeo, the Iris Festival up in Kaiser, like those bigger things. And this last year was our first year that we didn't make money, so we actually lost money. So we're like on a flux of like figuring out, like, is this viable? Have I lost my job? Like, do I need to sell my shares in that? I ended a relationship the week before quarantine, and there were some like different like debates and like things with the band Sleep Millennium. So at that point, like, I was at my lowest of low going into it. And
perfect timing is what you're saying then.
Yeah, and suddenly a week later, then we're in quarantine and everything is, in stasis mode. So it was very tough at the very beginning, but something that was super helpful. It took a couple weeks to get together, but I started seeing a therapist. So started like on that kind of like road of like healing and like self-care. So that's a little bit, it's kind of been like a little bit of a godsend through this whole process that got me off my ass to actually go and talk to somebody about my problems. So I would also, if anyone else is feeling that way, especially in times like this,
absolutely.
Like the avenues are open. Lucky for me, like I really like being in the presence of people. This therapist allows me to go to their office, but they're the only person there. You have to go through like a strict process, like, you're not allowed to open the door. They open the door for you. You have to wash your hands as you come in. You go in. If you touch anything, you have to Purell yourself, and then you have to leave. You have to wash your hands again, and go. So like, there's a whole process to it, but they allow me to go in person.
Well, that's got to be more beneficial than just doing it, via Zoom or telephone. So you're lucky you're in a position that you're able to do that.
Yeah, I think so too. And hats off to my therapist for wanting to like be in the presence of people and have that option open. But if those aren't open, I think they call it telehealth. Telehealth right. is a huge thing right now. So if you want to go talk to somebody, those avenues are open. So really support anyone and want to go do that. That's been a huge help like throughout this whole
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That I'm sure that would be very beneficial to a lot of viewers. And you'd mentioned earlier about Sleep Millennium. So, what is going on with Sleep Millennium right now?
So we've been like completely in lockdown mode essentially. So we, it's I hate to report nothing, but that's essentially kind of what's been happening. Josh Schroeder had his first child.
Yes,
Uh, d-
congratulations,
yeah,
Josh and
yeah.
Miranda.
Congrats to baby Ezra.
Baby
Uh,
Ezra, yes.
so they're deep in new parent mode. So I'm sure that that's taking a lot of time. We can't meet up, obviously, but one really exciting thing is that Josh Schroeder out at his place. I think they've been out there almost going on 2 years. It might
Right, they
about that.
just and he just made a studio too.
Yeah, so he's completing the studio as we speak. So hopefully, when things are lifted a little bit more and we can actually meet in person, we'll actually just have our own studio space. I have my own studio space, but it's much smaller, so it's more of like a personal studio, vocal box production kind of thing. But this should be able to
Hmm.
fit the entire band. Like we can do live recordings. I know he has plans to bring other bands in and then also do like a combination studio recording, but alongside video. So like you could have like a live performance, and that's
Oh
like
yeah,
a big
that
thing that
sounds.
that he's going to be trying to push forward. And so that could also hopefully add in our productivity when we come back. And I'm sure Josh is just going crazy writing his own stuff, probably about his little boy, or something. Like I'm sure
It-
like he's got a lot more perspectives to draw upon now
oh,
that he's a
it
father.
it totally changes your perspective when you become a parent. And
Hmm. And you have
is
kids?
I have four kids actually.
4 kids. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. My oldest son Johnny is and his girlfriend Emily are living with us now, and they got laid off, and they moved in with us, and Laura's son Corey and his girlfriend Marissa, they're living with us. So we have a full house,
Oh, okay.
you
Yeah,
know,
you're straight up the
right now.
Tanner family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But you find ways to entertain yourselves. Been playing some beer pong, cornhole,
that's fun.
Cards Against Humanity, things of that nature. Just whatever to pass the time.
Have
So
you seen that there is now like an online virtual game of Cards Against Humanity?
no.
A friend of mine set up a night. Unfortunately, I think it actually was on Easter. So I said like, "Oh yeah, I'm going," because I just clicked like, "Yeah, I'm going to the Facebook event." And then Nathan Olson, if you're familiar with Nathan,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
which I would imagine so, he put
Yeah.
it on, and then he hit me up and he's like, "All right, so you're still coming?" I'm just like, "Oh, dude."
Oh.
It's Easter, and I'm not religious or anything, but my parents are, and it's a big holiday for them. So I was having dinner with my folks, and I was like, I'm gonna try and make. I didn't make it,
Uh,
unfortunately. But yeah, it's like all virtual, so people are connected from wherever their houses are, and then you get your cards, and then you play them, and just like you had the physical game. So that's a pretty cool
oh,
little
that
little
would be,
thing.
yeah.
I can imagine there must be an apples to apples version, or like a plethora of other things, Monopoly, if you want to be stuck for 10 hours doing something.
It's really made us rethink how we maintain human contact right now during this time. So yeah, very interesting. So let's get into what you're doing individually. And so, how long have you been performing like under the moniker Light Treason?
So, to be honest, I couldn't give you an exact date of when I became Light Treason. In that, I just performed solo when I was younger. So, like throughout college, and I think my first what I would call like official release was while I was in college in 2008. Was called this album called the Sad Parade, and that was under Ronan Baker. And then as Ronan Baker, I uh, brought together like all these different people from the music department at Western Oregon University, where I was going, and we made a band that was called the Minute Hand Ballet. Originally, it was Ronan Baker and the Minute Hand Ballet, and then you're just like, God damn, how many syllables do you need in a name?
Yeah.
And then I fell on my sword, and then I was just like, I should probably remove my name from it, and just be like, we're the Minute Hand Ballet, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we released a record in 2010, and it's called Humanican, and it's also the name of the studio that I opened in 2011. It's called Humanican Studio, so that's where I record and produce out of. And so I was...
Oh, cool.
And then, so I was Minute Hand Ballet, and then I moved to New Zealand for a year, and then came back. We released that record, and then everyone kind of like dispersed. It's the end of college, so the drummer moved up to Washington to become a choral director. The piano player, Caitlin Roth, who's a good friend of mine. We also do solo, not solo, like duo things under the name Grace and Gamble. At least we used to. We might be doing a reunion sometime soon. She moved out to Dallas and started a family. So everyone kind of parted ways. And then I was solo again, and I didn't want to continue the Minute Hand Ballet, kind of name with that. So then I transferred over into, I want to be solo, but I also want there to be opportunity of growth, to have like a full band, kind of like the end all be all for me would be like, this is solo stuff, but I do want a backing band eventually. So that's why I turned to a name like Treason, so that it's more kind of like Dashboard Confessional.
Okay.
That's just a guy, but it's a band at the same time.
Right.
So I did that, and then I drew the name Light Treason from the TV show Arrested Development.
I love that show.
Yeah, me too. Like, it's fantastic. I hear that there might be a reunion coming in, and that they actually, well, I mean, this is all pre-COVID, so who knows exactly how that's going down. That I know one of the criticisms on the last season was that they filmed different episodes because everyone was famous now, so they couldn't have the schedules up that everyone could be together. So
it
supposedly,
was a little choppy.
Yeah, which they also did a remix. I don't know if you saw that. They re-released that season 4 like in a chronological order, so that instead of like different characters being each episode, they put them all together.
Oh, no.
So it was something interesting. But yeah, so hopefully Arrested Development comes back. But so George Bluth says that he may have committed some
a little light
treason. And
he built the homes in Iraq. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's all coming together now.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's just a great concept of, so it's an act of infidelity. It's something offensive. It's something wrong. But then, no matter on what level that you commit it, it's all punishable by death. So there's no difference of light or heavy or wrong.
There's no distinction.
There's whole gambit of like terrible things that you can do, but all of it is punishable by death. So that's kind of where I took the idea of that, because I just love that concept. And so I've released 2 records. I think 2014 was the last full official release. I've had some like singles since then. I did actually a cover of Sleep Millennium's Christmas on the Moon this last Christmas I released.
Awesome.
Which is fun, like you're covering your own band, but you're doing it in a different way. So that was a pretty fun thing. Like, how do I make this Light Treason? Well, you got to add banjo, or something like that. And each release so far, I call them offenses. So it's Offenses Volume 1, and that one is called Holy. So it's kind of like the concept of people being holier than thou, or like holding other things in higher regard. And then the next one is called Absence. So the offense that's punishable by death is being absent and not being there for people and, like the loves in your life and the things that you've lost. And I've been working on the follow-up for like 5 years. And the problem with that is just, I've really been wanting like a full band experience on this, and haven't really figured out the best way to do it. I've talked to Josh Schroeder about helping produce it, and put that together so that we can like put together like bass tracks, and then shop around to like local musicians that want to help me out.
I know a guy
who is this?
Happy birthday!
Oh,
what?
Hey, here's a.
Oh, wow. Oh,
All right.
hey.
Look at this right here. Hey.
They did their makeup for you and everything.
They did the makeup for me? Well, then that means you need to get in here on camera.
Oh,
Come on in and say hello.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Oh, hi. Who's this?
This is my whole family right here. This is my
Oh, wow.
quarantine
Hey,
family. So that's my
everybody.
roommate Matt. That's Ivory and Evie. Sometimes she goes by Veda, but who knows by what day? Well, thank you so much for this.
Do you want us to sing?
Oh, wow.
I would love for you to sing.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Please join in.
All right, pick a key. Pick a key. All right, there you go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ronan.
That's me.
Happy birthday to you.
All right, I'm gonna make a wish. And I wished for a cure.
Good wish.
All right, thank you so much.
Go away.
Sorry to interrupt.
All right. No, thank you. I'm not going to eat the candle, but I'm going to go for it.
Chow down.
Dude, carrot cake, cream cheese,
Ooh.
that's where it's
Ooh.
at.
Cream cheese frosting is the best.
Yeah.
That's
anything.
indisputable. It's a fact. It's a scientific fact, as a matter of fact.
Fight me on it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
Come at me, bro. So you're saying you know somebody that plays bass?
Yeah, I think you know him.
Oh, yeah. Is that David Byrne?
Really quiet guy. A little bit narcissistic.
Especially about his birthdays. I think you're talking about
Yeah,
Jared Venti.
exactly.
Yeah, he plays bass.
So,
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like a power trio. So guitar, vocals, bass, and drums along those lines. But
There you
now,
go.
during quarantine, I'm finishing up a different record. So the next record that I've been working on for like 5 years is called Sober. So that's the next offense. And that doesn't have to necessarily be with, alcohol or drugs or anything like that, but the act of being sober. But that's not what I've been working on. I've been working on a new project that's called No Maps.
all right.
I don't know if it's necessarily in the offenses, volume series, but it's something new that I've been doing. And I sent you a song that was called "A Son Who Never Sleeps."
Oh, I love that one.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And that's a part of that series. And the name and concept came about just by a theme that showed up in a bunch of the songs. So, for example, in "A Son Who Never Sleeps," the son talks to his dad, and he says, "My son, there is no map, no code book of what to do." And then I wrote another song that was called "A House That Leaves." And "A House That Leaves," it's the concept of it. Well, I should probably back up a little bit. So the concept for the entire thing is that each song, which I'm thinking it's going to be 3 or 4 songs at this point, is accompanied with a short story, like a written out piece. So it actually has the story, and then the song correlates with it. So with "The House That Leaves," the second song, it's about I can't remember how I came about it, but it's about a son and a father that live in a house that at any time it blows away like the leaves and moves to a new place. So at any time everything is not concrete, and they bounce around to all these different places, never knowing where they're going to stay. And then the son gets tired of that and just I want to find a home. I want to find family. I want to find friends. So then he goes he's walking home on a train track, and he finds a loose spike. Then he goes to his house, and then he pins the house down. But then all the magic is lost, and they're stuck in that house forever. And then he has to deal with all right, so I've made this decision, and now I'm trapped in one place forever because of this. So in that song, the house is always moving, and the dad calls himself the captain, even though he can't control where the ship goes. So they have no map and no wheel to steer, but they're always moving. So then I was catching these correlations of never having a map, never knowing a destination. And then that's how I grouped all the songs together.
That sounds really interesting.
Kind of something that I've been doing creatively. I've been productive, but I always catch myself being very hard on myself in what I could be doing as opposed to, what I'm actually producing out. So I could could be like Jared and like have produced an entire record like in this quarantine already. But I haven't done that. But I've worked on little things like building up this remote studio so that I can teach private lessons and figure out, I host virtual trivia. So figuring out the technology on that end, live streaming shows. So I figured that out, and I've been working on this project and finishing up the actual short story parts that correlate with the songs.
Well, if it's any consolation, I look like a complete and total slacker compared to what you're doing. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better in any kind of way. But
You're producing a TV show right now. What are you talking about? Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it big.
Okay, thank you. So have you found yourself to be more or less creative during this time? Is it like creating problems in being able to be creative? Because personally, for me, about the only thing I'm creating right now is dissension and chaos amongst my housemates in my living environment. But, that doesn't really sell. I don't think people really are interested in that. But as far as what you're doing, how does that?
Yeah, like I can like make something so people can create chaos wherever they are. Like if things aren't bad enough where you are, stick around. I'll help you out. I think something that drives creativity is change, and a little bit, especially in the past couple of weeks, I've like lost track of what days are. So things aren't actively happening other than like check the news and see what the governor says or something like that, which to be honest I've been actively avoiding because there's so much negativity about them, like any change that's going on, and people are kind of going insane out there, and in a very negative way and not in a very supportive way.
Exactly.
And I find that on both ends of the aisle as well. I don't want to get like too political or anything like that, but there's the conservatives. They're all like, start the economy, which I see like great plaudits in that. And then, the left is just being like, no, lives will end, and like and stuff like that. Like we can't freaking do that. But I definitely think that there's a place in the middle that we can definitely find like a good
some
point
common ground. That's the problem, is trying to find common ground.
Yeah, I read an article. My dad sent me an article, and he and I are very different people and very different minded. I was raised by a music pastor, so he's very religious and very conservative, and I'm not. But it had a point in it in that you can't be afraid to go and live your life, which sounds like you're valuing your life over other people. Which it's not necessarily. It's more like I feel like it's valuing the lives of all the people that are out there and being able to actually live a life that is able to support everyone else. Because with the economy shutting down, there's all these stories about all the fields having to get rid of all their produce, euthanizing animals and stuff like that. So it's going to have a big impact on other people's lives and people starving to death and famine and
it's a worldwide phenomenon. So
so it's huge. It's not just Kate Brown screwing us over. Like everyone's all in this together. So this may be a bit touchy, but like cut her some freaking slack.
Yeah, could you imagine being governor at this time? I mean, what a time, and knowing that that's weighing on you heavily, whatever decision that you make. And there's really, you're kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't position with what you do. We have been lucky so far in that hospitalizations have been relatively low compared to other parts of the country and the world in general.
Well, and especially at our chance for risk, since we're so close to Washington, which is, Washington and California, which have, such a huge influx of cases.
Yeah. Well, hey, you were so kind to provide us with some videos. So why don't we start with the one we were talking about previously, The Son Who Never Sleeps. Let's take a look at that video and let the viewers see that. All right?
Roll it.
Roll it.
Here we go.
sleeps, can hardly carry a tune. Then so hard to keep, well, how could he hold on to you? The sun that never sleeps, love seems so out of reach. He asks his father, please, well, something you could teach. You've loved the sky so long, what really made her stay? Why is love perceived so wrong, and the earth seems so far away? Oh, la da da da, la da da da, la da 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 da. The sun that never sleeps, Father has a script. It's goddamn hard to read, well, we can all admit. Well, I'd set the sky free, this had little to do with me. So many places she could choose to be, their own sense of gravity, her own sense of gravity. So my son, there is no map, no road book of what to do. If there's love where you're at, maybe more will be drawn to you. La da da da, la da da da, la da 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 da. Oh, my son never sleeps. It's not your job to hold on. Since your birth, you'd always weep for those not even gone. Sit back, enjoy the dawn. Awaken, enjoy your dawn. Sun who never sleeps, can barely carry a tune. With them so hard to keep, well, maybe I'll just wait for you. Maybe I'll just wait for you. Maybe he'll just wait for you.
Wow, Ronan, that is a sweet, full song. What can you tell me about the writing of this song?
So this is a part of that No Maps project that I was telling you about. It's the first one that came along. So like Treason and Ronan Baker, I guess before, I used to do a lot of spoken word, like in between songs, and on the records that I have released, I believe I didn't release them on Spotify, but on like the Bandcamp and a couple of the other avenues, we have like intros to each of the different parts with spoken word pieces and kind of poems. So that was a big part of me coming up, in my early 20s. A lot of influence from artists like Bright Eyes, which Bright Eyes is coming out with a new album, which I didn't realize that they came together, which blows my mind that their last record came out in 2011. It was like 9 years ago.
Very cool. I got to see Connor Oberst at the Bing Lounge.
Oh, cool.
A number of years ago, and that was a really good time.
So is that him just by himself?
just by himself.
Complete
Yeah,
solo.
so
I mean, that's more than enough.
3 songs,
So,
but it was really sweet.
I mean, he's one of my biggest influences by far, especially like his scope, the way that he's made music throughout the years, and now he's in his 40s and he's still making cool stuff.
Yeah.
But so that spoken word, he usually opened like almost every Bright Eyes album. I want to say maybe all of them with like a monologue or something like that. So I took with that. I did a lot of spoken word, and then had that a part of my albums. But I kind of went away from that in my later 20s and now in my early 30s. So I was thinking about getting back to it. So I had short stories written for all the songs that are going to be in this project.
Oh, very cool.
And this one came to me actually. So it's kind of like transferring these ideas of pain from loss and not being able to hold on to a relationship. And so I was going through kind of a breakup. Was drinking a lot, not doing too well, and then I was asleep, and this message came to me while I was sleeping, and it was like, the son who never sleeps can hardly carry a tune, and if he can't hold on to that, how could he hold on to you? So he can't sing, he can't hold on to anything, so how could he possibly hold on to a person? And I took just that phrase, and then I wrote the song, and then I wrote this little short story. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share a bit of it, if you allow me to be indulgent. So,
by all means.
The son who never sleeps. There once was a little god, the son of the wisest, most beloved god of all, a son who never slept. He was praised and worshipped in songs of lesser ways, but wished to love in return. He sought out the other stars, the more brilliant and distant than he, and collected all the tickling, twinkling, and thoughtful things he could say to a paramour. He then set to the task of composing his prose of affection and slaved tiredly away throughout his endless sleepless days. When he was satisfied, he would sing in wholehearted response his own crude melodies, but no matter how hard he tried, they left his ravaged throat in violent, grotesque bursts of light that harmed his loves. A brutal lullaby that woke all infants into fits of bawling and turned vast plains into bare deserts in an instant. He tried again and again until all reeled in anguish, burning anguish, and escaped, slinking into darkness. Writhing in his loneliness, the son who never sleeps sought out his father, the wisest, most loved god of all, and beseeched of him what to do. Father, I can't carry a tune. If the burden of love is so great, how could I ever hope to carry it too? He queried. Have you tried a lighter song? His father replied, stroking his mountainous beard. A song filled with my words couldn't be lighter than they are. To me, they are a beautiful feather, Father. Yet your mind is a heavy, complicated thing. Could it be the song itself? Could it be simpler? The father asked as he tightened his grip on his whiskers and boulders shed down into the seas. Sirius provided me with the most basic of forms to deconstruct the whole affair, the son who never sleeps exclaimed. A-B, A-B, C-B? Yes, Father. Very interesting and vexing, the father concluded. Father, you've loved the sky so long. What really made her stay? How could my love be seen so wrong and the earth seem so far away? One question at a time, my son. You see, long ago I set the sky free. Her staying had little to do with me. Blessed of her own gravity, there's any place she could be. The son who never sleeps sat and pondered, so what does that mean? Son, there is no map, no code book of what to do. If there truly is love to be had where you're at, perhaps it will be drawn to you. So the son who never sleeps wept and turned to leave. The father stopped him and pulled him into his grand canyon of a chest, steam forming from it as he softly boomed, My son who never sleeps, it is not your job to hold on. Since birth, you've wept away your slumber for some not even gone. Please, sit back and awaken your dawn. With that, the son who never sleeps silently left his father, the wisest and most loved god of all, to ponder for what seemed an ice age what he had learned. Then he returned to his home, hanging in the bosom of his mother, the sky, and hummed to himself and no one else. He waited. He still couldn't carry a tune or the weight of the fiery heart in his chest, but he could carry hope. Meanwhile, on the other side, seemingly so far away, one day, night would come. And that's
Wow.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
you're most welcome. Thanks for letting me read it.
I'm really thankful for all the musicians right now during this time that have been sharing their music over social media. And obviously, there's no substitute for performing live. And I'm sure you miss it too. I miss going out. It seems like it's been years, although I
I
know
know.
it's not, since I've been to a live venue. And I really feel for, the operators, of local venues as well too. But since you've done some of these live remotely, what's this experience been like for you? And where do you see this heading in the future of doing this? It seems like we're going to be doing this for some
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different experience. One thing that I can also relate it to is live comedy. So, what did the space reopen at? Is it the Infinity Room?
The Infinity Room.
So I was actually able to catch some live comedy on there, and it's very similar to live music in that you're acting in the space, but then you get no reaction. So you have no idea if people are digging it or not, if people are laughing, if people are applauding. We have no gauge of exactly what's happening, and it feels. I mean, if I can be like completely honest, like a little dissatisfying.
No, totally. I could see that.
You play a song and then you're like, all right, there's complete silence here.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm moving on. Like,
Is
do
anybody
I hold?
watching? What's going on?
Yeah, do I
Yeah.
hold for applause? Do I not? Do I leave the gap where
Yeah.
that would have been? So that's a little hard to figure out because you feel like you're in a vacuum.
Well, we
And
really appreciate it. I mean, in these times, they're so uncertain. And, personally, Laura and I, we always turn to music and
Mhm.
spinning a lot of vinyl right now. And we find, comfort and relief in listening to music. So it's really nice when I'm really glad people have been stepping up, being able to do that. And being able to share in that, if you have some like amplified speakers on your computer, so you
Mhm.
can at least get some bass and some response off your speakers. We really appreciate, people that do that. So thank you for participating.
For sure, and I plan on doing a little bit more in the future. So I've been working on a lot of piano tunes recently, and I'm thinking about doing a full piano concert, which I haven't done with Light Treason too often. I did a couple songs on a live stream for the Salem Musician Alliance a couple weeks ago, which Jared Venti curates. And hopefully he's going to be doing some more. I know we have a live open mic that I'm going to be hosting on Saturday at 7. So we have people
Correct.
signing up for that for this Saturday. But so I performed with that, and I did a couple piano tunes. But I think I want to do a full piano kind of like repertoire of Light Treason music and a bunch of covers. And my father has a piano studio with a baby grand piano.
Ooh, nice.
And so I'm hoping that I can take this whole setup that I have, so like I have lights that are all over here and like multiple cameras all set up
Yeah.
and interface and things that I'm just going to tear it all up and then go up to my dad's house, which luckily he lives like 6 blocks away from me. So
Very convenient.
so in isolation, it's been just my house and then my folks' house essentially. I've
Yeah.
just been going between the two places, and that's where my full recording studio is as well.
Okay.
But so hopefully, I'm trying to give myself time to feel completely prepared. Having not performed piano Light Treason music really before, so thinking, like maybe May 7th, maybe it'll be May 14th. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe it'll be a couple weeks, but I
Okay.
have the time. I'm learning some stuff. I'm learning some DAWs. I've been working through a couple different records. I've had this inkling of like converting some cool indie rock stuff into kind of like piano ballad singer-songwriter music. So I've been working on Japan Droids, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
Their record Celebration Rock. So converting that into a piano record, and I've been working through some Pedro the Lion, who was a huge influence on me as well, and the album Control. And speaking of that, the next song that I sent you is actually a cover. That's actually a cover of Pedro the Lion. It's their opening track on Control, and it's called Options.
Right. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at that video right now?
For sure.
We were walking, holding hands, with our bare feet in the sand, with the seagulls overhead. When I broke the spell and said I could never divorce you, well, without a good reason, though I may never have to. It's good to have options, but for now I need you. But for now I need you. But for now I need you. But it was only in my head, 'cause no one ever says what they really mean to say when there's so much at stake. So I told her I loved her, and she told me she loved me, and I mostly believed her, and she mostly believed me. But for now I need you. But for now I need you. But for now I need you. 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 Boom, baby.
Well, that's certainly a beautiful song about semi-commitment. What can you
Semi-commitment,
tell
that's a
me
good
about
way to
this
put it.
song?
So it's the opening track on Pedro the Lion, which is David Bazan is the main driving force behind that, and it's actually a concept album, but I didn't really take the song in context of what the concept is. Essentially, from what I believe, it's just it's a concept album, but you don't know exactly what it is, and that's kind of what's cool about concept albums, because they can be very vague.
Right.
And so the record is about, from what I believe, a unfaithful, womanizing father and husband, and then his descent, away from that, and coming to grips with the ideas of religion and adultery and sexuality and all these different things. And this is the very opening track, and I think it's also very pertinent to kind of like the social climate now, even though it came out in 2004, so that's 16 years ago. it talks about the very first verse is like, he has this line where he goes, "I could never divorce you without a good reason." And I add something in there in, maybe this is going against Bazan's thing, but I add the word "well." So it's kind of like, well, without a good reason. It's like,
Yeah.
so it's like, I could never divorce you. Well, without a good reason, kind of thing. And I felt like that's kind of like implied, but I wanted to make it, like more out there, in the song itself. And then when it comes into the second verse, it starts off with like, but that was only in my head, because no one ever says what they really mean to say. And I think that's really important, is like the first half is saying, this is the way that the brain is working. This is the way relationships are working, but no one's talking about it. And that's 2004. I feel like that's changed a lot coming into 2020, especially in like the social climate. Feels like, like open relationships and things like that are more of a thing, knowing that things aren't going to be forever, that most marriages end in divorce is a very public thing. So a lot of people aren't getting married, has changed. But that idea of, all right, I'm into this, but I need options. which is the title of the song, I feel like is kind of like where everything changed since 2004 till now. Almost like he was like seeing in his own head what people were thinking, what people were feeling, but then actually saying it instead of people holding it inside.
Yeah, I really like the kind of falsetto there at the end when you're like fading out with I need
that's
you. Nice. Yeah. I like that.
Thank you. That's the funny thing about covers is you make your own interpretation. He doesn't do that in the song. It's a very different song. It's all electric guitar and vocals and drums instead of, kind of like a Rhodesy piano kind of ballad. But I've been playing this song for a decade probably, but I've never performed it live until, semi-live.
Semi-live. Live from the living room, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's watch the final video, Sunlight Came to Pass.
All right, cool.
I like that one a lot too.
you have never left. And I had a nightmare today. The morning came and went, but you never stayed. And it is so bitter memory. Ones we love and lost, sweet reverie, reverie.
Nice work with the looping. That's a really beautiful song. I got to ask you, how many takes did that require?
So funny enough, there are two takes for that one, and
Okay.
looping is its own world, and I can definitely say I am no master of it whatsoever.
You mastered it on that one.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
There's some really good people I need to show you about real looping. I have a good friend named Wonder Truly. She's a fantastic looper with vocals and guitar. So I'm still a novice at it, but thank you for that on that song. So two takes on that one. There's always like this weird process of like going through, if you mess up, setting the loop, and then like you can back out of it. You can delete just the thing that happened before. And the first time I went through, I got to the very end where I start, building this loop over the top of itself. And what happened was with the rhythm part, I made it too short. So in this specific pedal, I can only make a loop as long as the first loop, essentially, as long or shorter. So, but then the guitar part I was putting over it was twice as long. So it started recording over itself. So I'm just like, shh, and then I'm just going through and I'm just like, and there's just no going back. And the funny thing with these recordings is that it's a recording, so it's forever. So normally if a mistake happens live, I just roll with the punches. And that's kind of like, that's kind of the name of my game. I can't say I'm the best singer, I'm the best guitarist or anything like that, but I can roll with it. So normally I would roll with it, but
that's a skill right there, because most people would just be like deer in the headlights.
Well, and that's something I have to teach my students. I teach a rock kind of class, group class, at least I used to, with River City Rockstar Academy. And the biggest thing is like, the biggest thing that people are going to figure out a mistake is if you tell them that you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like I would even, when I first started, I can't say that this is a good practice necessarily, but like say I'm leading into a chorus and then I make like a weird note. I would do that every single time. I would go back to the chorus to make it seem like it was on purpose.
I meant to do that.
Because of the first mistake, then I would repeat the mistake over and over so that like you're like, that's how it was written, guys. You know, yeah, this is how it goes. You know, like so I'm constantly like trying to figure that out. I think I stopped doing that, but the biggest thing is not letting people know and just being like, you know, like or being mad or like making a face about it. And then you can get through it, and then you can figure something out because it's not the end of the show.
No,
and
most people are very forgiving, and a lot of people aren't going to notice anyway. So
yeah, but you're your own. Yeah, you're your own worst critic, and I don't know if this is most definitely not arable, but funny enough, Son Who Never Sleeps had the most mistakes and the most takes. So I even sent you a little gag reel.
I saw that.
Of me messing up really badly. There's a lot of profanity, so I imagine it's not going to be...
Yeah, I know. We'll see what Charles says about that.
Yeah.
That man.
Yeah. Some of the parts I just find really funny. It was filmed at like 12:30 at night.
Okay.
And then I was just like going through and then just made like a tiny mistake, which is just like a chord change, and then you'd be through it. If it was a live show, no problem. You know, like boom, I'm through it, we're fine. But then since it was recording, I'd be like, stop! No! No! Funny enough, in this recording of Sunlight Came to Pass, speaking of telegraphing mistakes, there are actually mistakes in the loops, and I'm adapting as we go, but I just tried to save the whole thing. So when we get to the looping section, I have this little line, it's like da 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 da. So I get that fine, and the next part I go really high up, and then I'm recording, and you'll see I play it, and then I go, and then it doesn't repeat back. And then I do it again, and then it records that time. For some reason, it didn't go to the overdubbing place. It was just playing back itself. So, like, there's even, like, a mess up in there. But, you know, I'm just changing over, and then I fixed it, and then kind of, like, just figured it out.
It sounds good, though. It sounds good.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, one last question. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was last weekend. Like you said, time just seems to run on and on. But the Frengies appeared at Santiam Brewing, and they were 6 feet apart. Mm-hmm. And they did a live performance in that. Any possibility Sleep Millennium might be up for doing something like that going forward?
You know, I have no idea, but everythro's on the table, that's for sure. Especially when it comes to Sleep Millennium. We kind of pride ourselves in doing crazy stuff. Like what band throws their own music festival? We do. You know, who records all their own music videos?
That
Oh,
was amazing.
yeah,
The Blood
thank
Moon
you.
Fest? I was so disappointed you guys didn't do it last year. Because that was such a stellar lineup, and the way you had multiple stages, so there was no pause in the music. That was, that was a good time.
Yeah, I mean, we learned a lot, for sure, through that process. And we learned how big of a village you need to do something like that. We really want...
2 years ago, though, it did not help you that it was like 230 degrees the day that you had that. It was so hot that day.
Yeah, but luckily, Cathkin Vineyards has a fantastic tree tree
I
canopy
know, but even
that
under the
could
trees,
shade
it
us.
was hot. It was hot that day.
Imagine what it was like on the stage, man.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think if it was slightly cooler day, I think there would have been a bigger turnout. I really do.
See,
Yeah.
what was really cool about that was that we broke even, which,
Oh, that's always a bonus.
as I've been told that festivals always lose money, like probably like their first 3 years or something like that. But, we broke even. We were able to pay all the bands. We paid all the vendors, everything that they needed, and we had a fun show. Fortunately, we weren't able to do it the next year because Cathkin was selling. And
They were in flux, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't available, but then they stayed open, and then we kind of lost the dates. They booked their entire summer, and then they're like, all right, so you have these days. And I think one of the only days we could do, I was DJing a wedding, and I couldn't turn down $1,500 to do that, because that's one of my day jobs is DJing that. And I'm just like, man, like I would love to do it. But so that didn't work out. Maybe we'll do it in the future. Maybe we'll do it remotely. Who knows?
I don't know. Well, maybe 2021 we can look forward to another Blood Moon festival. And then this time you could have Blood Moon beer on tap, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, we'd have to talk to Vagabond about getting that back.
Yeah.
So coming up in the next couple of weeks, I should be doing a live concert from Facebook of all piano stuff. So keep your eye to the horizon for that coming up. And with Sleep Millennium, I directed a music video for our song called War Letting Go of You, which we're currently still in the editing phase. Editing has been really crazy because like the machine and the editor are in a quarantine place, and we have to go back and forth, with the emails and stuff and different edits. So we're on like edit 9 right now. So we'll see when it actually gets done, but hopefully we'll release that sometime soon. And this is actually a little inspiration from this interview of like thinking about things that we should be releasing and things that we could be doing. But we recorded a VR video. We rented out a hangar at the Salem airport a couple years ago for our song.
Very cool.
We actually did, I think, almost our whole record. We released a couple music videos, Red Fire Girl and Flight to the Blood Moon. Those were taken from that same session, but we also did a VR, which we had a drone, and we had like 3D cameras set up around so that there's a VR video. So I'm going to talk to the guys and see about maybe in the future coming up that we should look into releasing that, because no better time than quarantine to get VR. If we could get AR, some augmented reality, maybe that's the next thing for Sleep Millennium too. You can smell my sweat on stage. Because Lord knows I do.
So Light Treason and Sleep Millennium available iTunes, Bandcamp,
Spotify.
Any other platforms?
Those are the main ones, yeah. Apple Music, but I always urge people to go through either our direct website. You can get it directly from us, so there's no middleman.
No middleman. Yes,
so that's
go to
both
the website.
through Sleep Millennium and Light Treason. But if you're going anywhere else, I would say go through Bandcamp. Now, there still is a middleman, but they're a great company. They had this really great promotion probably a month ago. It was on one day for a Friday. They waived all of their fees for all of their artists. Yeah, so I called it Bandcamp Friday. But so to support all of the musicians out there, they waived all the fees so that they can get the money directly. So they're just a good company, I would say, at this point. So either the website or through Bandcamp, I'd say that's really the way to go to really support your artists.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I could go on forever, but time constraints, we need to tighten it up. But I really appreciate you being on the show today, and the 3 videos you provided, and especially on short order. What was it, like a week? We put this all together, and
it was in a week. The Options song I actually recorded for a TV show in Arizona. I think it's called like Ardent Film or something like that. It was like an audition piece. I don't think I got in, but but I recorded that one a couple weeks ago, and then I recorded those last 2 songs like this weekend.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you so much. The best of luck going forward. I look forward to seeing you guys live and coming out to see you live, and I will buy you a beer next time we meet up in person, my friend.
Well, that'd be awesome.
seems so out. Okay, yeah. He asks his father, please, why can't I do this? He asks his father.
Dad, why?
Yeah, I asked a question.
Yeah.
Dad, why can't I play? Ass. Bastard bitches.
Bitches.
Just a bunch of bitches. Okay. God damn it. Bunch of bitches. All these strings are a bunch of bitches.
Jesus Christ. Just Jesus Christ.
Good old JC.
Good old JC.
Jesus Christ and his bunch of bitches. Why is that so funny?
Don't know.
Look at this bunch of bitches.
You just a bunch of bitches. Woof, woof.
Bark.
Bark, bark. Bark, bark.
We're so dumb.